Good morning, MacLaren. Today is Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. The weather today, a mix of clouds and sun with a slight chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. High of 62 degrees. The sun rose at 6:10 a.m. and will set at 7:44 tonight. Today marks the beginning of Ramadan. This is the holiest month in Islam. And Muslims mark Ramadan by fasting during daylight hours for a whole month. This is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So Muslims get up in the dark before dawn and eat a big meal. And then as soon as the sun rises, they cannot have food or water all day. And then once the sun sets after dusk, people gather and have another big meal. Not everyone has to fast. Young children, pregnant or nursing mothers, the elderly, people with health conditions are all exempt from the fast. But this period of time is understood by Muslims to commemorate the time that God revealed the first chapters of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. And Muslims believe that during this time, the gates of heaven are open and the gates of hell are closed. This is not just a time of fasting from food and water. Muslims cannot smoke cigarettes during the fast. They cannot indulge in jealousy or anger. And often people read the Quran and engage in acts of charity during this month. Okay, so yesterday we looked at an egg and water, and we asked ourselves, which is denser? And what we saw, of course, was that an egg, which seems very dense, is denser than regular water, but it is not more dense than salt water. So today, this is sort of a classic household experiment thing to play with. It gets really fun if you have some food coloring. So once again, I have a container of plain old water, not salt water. This is just plain water. And I have some oil. And this oil is canola oil. And when you look at this oil, it's so thick and gloppy and velvety and heavy feeling. And so we're going to pour this into our water and we will see what happens. So ask yourself first, what do you think is going to happen here when I pour them in? Will the oil separate? Will it come together? Will it sink? Will it float? Will it scatter? Let's find out what happens when we pour oil in water. But before I do, ask yourself if you have ever heard the expression like oil and water. If I say, oh, well, those two people, they are like oil and water. What do I mean by that? Let's find out. Oh, it's so pretty. Well, there you have it. The oil is entirely floating on the surface of the water. So what does that mean about density? It means that even though the oil looks very thick and gloppy, it is in fact less dense than water. Water is more dense than oil. And so the oil, at the beginning, it sort of poured down and beads of oil went to the bottom, but very quickly they floated up to the top, just like our egg did in salt water. And so the next step here would be to get some food coloring and maybe make some tinctures, mix in food coloring, different quantities of food coloring in water, and start pouring that in here and seeing how it interacts with the oil? Would that food coloring get through our oil, or would it sit on top? So that would be the next step, and I encourage you to play around and find out. One thing you need to know if you start playing around with oil and water is that you don't want to pour that oil down your sink, because it will gum up your pipes, and your folks will be very sad because they'll have to call a plumber and pay zillions of dollars. So don't do that. Okay, that is all I have for you today, my friends. Take heart. Keep tending to your victory garden. Keep a pleasant schedule and a good routine. Get outside, get some fresh air and exercise. Be a helper to your family. Please don't wrangle with your siblings. If it is your birthday today, April 23rd, happy birthday to you. I hope you all have a day of kindness, friendliness, and peace. Folks, we're all in this together. We'll see you tomorrow.